Well, hello everybody. I know I talked in my last video about making some hamburger soup. Well, that's what I call it. And first of all, I'm going to take a couple of potatoes and cut them up because I do put a little bit of potatoes in my soup. And I think since it was cold today, that it would be a good day to make some of this. And the reason I call it hamburger soup is I always called ground beef that you buy in the packages hamburger. Because usually that's what we always bought it for. You know, the ground beef like this. I always called it hamburger. So when I made my soup the first time, I called it hamburger soup. And we're going to start out just by cutting up a few potatoes. Because you don't want too big of, well, I don't want too big of potatoes in my soup. I want small pieces. Because I have small pieces of everything in my soup. And I guess I'm going to have to chop up my onions because I went out in the garden and I picked another bunch of the green onions. You know, I told you I needed to pick some more of them and get them out of that small container so we could put those onion bottoms in there. So I went out there and pulled another bunch of them. And all I had was the red potatoes this time, so that's what I'm using. Red potatoes. I bought a bag of the red potatoes the last time instead of the white potatoes, because I love either one. And I'm not going to put too many in there. Most people would have took out the cutting board to do this, but this is the way I've always been used to doing my potatoes. You know, didn't usually take out a cutting board to cut them up. It saved time for me just to grab them and peel them and chop them up right in my hands. I had more control over them, I guess, than a lot of ways. So we might can put maybe one more small one. I think this one will be plenty enough potatoes in there. Because I'm going to put other vegetables in it too. And the first time I ever fixed this, I was really surprised at how good it was. Because I didn't expect it to turn out as good as it did. But it was really good. That right there. And I think I'm going to use just a a couple of celery pieces. You know what, I can just throw the celery right in there because I've already got it washed and cut in little strips, but I'm just going to dice up a couple of them. Sometimes I'll be watching TV and I'll sit down and have a handful of celery in my hands and I'll sit there and eat celery just by itself. I mean, I love it. I've done lettuce the same way. It looks funny as all get out when you're sitting there eating lettuce just right by itself, but it's good for you. And if you don't want a bunch of calories, that's kind of the best way to do. And I'm not going to put any more beef in this than I'm putting other ingredients. I put just about equal amount of each thing in there. And as I said, I have gotten or I pulled another whole clump of onions. Those green onions, and I haven't cut them up yet because I wasn't sure if I was going to go ahead and fix the salmon patties or this today, so I didn't cut any of them. Some of these need to be washed again. I don't think I'm going to use the tops off of them little bitty ones. They're a little bit tough. You know, we had a whole bunch of stuff coming up in that container with my onions, and I like, you know, what is this? And then I happened to remember a lot of these green onions went to seed before cold weather. So I've ended up, and I'm not going to use all of them, but those right there were the little bitty onions that were coming up. They were coming up from the seeds that fell from those onions, the big onions that I didn't cut or pull. And then they started growing new tops after they dropped the seed. I don't want that one. Another one I want to use. Yeah, this is my favorite chopping knife. I've had it for so many years. Some of the outside off I don't want in there. And I may not use quite all of these either. Turning into quite a bit of onion right there. We'll see once I get it going in the pot. Yeah, but I'm only going to use half of this pound of ground beef. I'm just going to put that on there enough to cut through that. So I'm going to wrap the rest of it up and put it back in the refrigerator or put it in a container. Save that half a pound for something else. And save my onions for something else. Because I don't want too many onions in the soup. A few will do, but I don't want the onions to overpower the soup. So now I'm going to bring it over here and see if I can show you what I'm doing over this way. I got my big pot and I'm just putting a tiny bit of olive oil, maybe about a tablespoon. I just want a little bit. And then I'm going to turn my heat on. I just want enough so that beef, that ground beef, doesn't stick to the pot. And I'm going to take that half a pound of beef and just go ahead and drop it right in there. Yeah, I thought it would be good to have some of this soup for supper tonight. And like I said, you can make it as thick or as watery as you want. That's up to you. Sometimes I don't like mine too thick, so I'll not put quite as much water in it. Get that a-going. Get me some chili powder and paprika. Garlic salt. And you don't have to put this in there. You can put any kind of seasoning you want. I like garlic, so I put garlic in there. I put a little bit of, well, that chili powder's not open. I must have another one that I'm using. Where's the other one? Oh well. Ground cinnamon. I'll go. I might have used all my chili powder because I know I had another one up there. I'll just go ahead and open this one. Ain't nothing but chili powder. And I'm just going to sprinkle enough to cover the meat a little bit. And that's all. Oh, paprika. Just a little. But this shows you what you can do with some of your vegetables out of your garden too. If you're growing potatoes, you got potatoes you can put in there. If you're growing your onions, you got your own onions you can put in your soup. If you got broccoli, cauliflower, any of that stuff growing in your garden, you can use that. I don't have any right now. I mean, I've got a few broccoli leaves, but I don't think I want to put it in here. I mean, it would be good, but I'm going to have enough with my celery, because you can grow celery in your garden. You know, these onions came out of my garden. You can grow carrots and peas in your garden, and you can grow corn in your garden. I'm only going to use about a half of this can, so I'm only using about seven ounces of corn, about 8 ounces or 7 ounces of carrots and peas. You know, it's just a little can. It's a 8-ounce can of carrots and peas. And then, of course, my handful of celery, and I've got my potatoes. Now, my beef is kind of browned a little bit. You can see there. So I'm going to add my onions. That right in the dish thing. And go ahead and brown my onions a little bit. And since I didn't pull any of my garlic, I'm going to use my standby. I know I put a little bit of garlic salt in there, but I'm also going to put minced garlic. And it's just the True Value brand, or it's Walmart's. It's not that expensive, and I haven't even opened it yet. I'm just going to put about a teaspoon in there, because this is a tablespoon, so I'm putting a half a tablespoon in there, about. And like I said, if you don't want garlic, don't put garlic in there. If you don't like onions, don't put onions in there. You put the vegetables in it that you want, that you like. Because a soup like this is very versatile. You can basically put the onion, you know, whatever vegetables you want in yours. I had one subscriber that said, well, I don't like garlic. Okay, well, garlic is just totally optional. You do not have to put garlic in any of these dishes. I love garlic. It's good for you. It's healthy. I've made like cough syrup with garlic and onions and honey and different things, and it works. So, I mean, garlic is healthy for you, but if you don't like it, by all means, don't put it in your soup, or don't put it in any of the dishes that I cook. You put in what you like. What I'm showing you is basically how I like it. So, I mean, you can fix it any way you want. But I like to brown that beef a little bit, that ground beef. And you can see it's barely enough that it covers the bottom of the pot. But you know, this is soup. And it helps to brown it, because it brings out the good flavor in that beef. And get me some water. Oh, that's good water. And you know what? since I like things a little bit spicy, I'm going to put just a tiny bit of my cowboy candy relish that I made this past summer. I'm not going to put much because I don't want it that hot and spicy, but I like it a little spicy. So I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon or a fourth of a tablespoon of it in there. It'll be just enough to season it. And that was relish. You know, I make some of it as like a relish, and I do some of it just in a jalapeno or the pepper slices. Because I'd rather have it in a relish to put it in a dish like this. Turn that heat up just a little bit because I want that beef to brown a little. I mean, it's browning, but not exactly the way I want it. I want it kind of crispy. Parts of it a little crispy. Because I like the flavor that that gives it. And I'm not sure if I've got any more canned tomatoes or not. Yeah, I've got stewed tomatoes. And instead of water, I'm putting a can of stewed tomatoes. They have basil, garlic, and oregano in it already, but I'll probably add a little bit. And this is just a 14-ounce can of cooked tomatoes. And I will add a can of water to that. And I may even add more water as we get through the process. Now I'm going to add my celery and my potatoes. It's looking good, y'all. It's like a vegetable beef soup, only you're using ground beef in it instead of sliced beef, which I think is just as good. Now I'm going to put half of my can of corn. Like I said, I'm only going to put half a can. See, I've dumped the other half a can out. But you know, if you want to make more than just this pot full, feel free. Double the recipe. Use a whole pound of ground beef. Use more potatoes. Use more corn. Just go for it. Do what you want to do with your soup. And as I said, I'll probably add some more basil. Oop, that's peppermint. Don't want to put peppermint in there. You can tell I've been using my peppermint. Look at there. It's almost half empty. Not peppermint, but basil. And I'm going to put a couple of basil sprigs down in there. Not many. I love basil. I love the fresh basil better, but I don't want to buy more, so I'm using what I dried or dehydrated from last summer, last growing season. And you noticed out in the greenhouse, I've already got another basil plant started from seed. It's just barely popped up out of the dirt, but it's coming up. And then I'm going to add my diced carrots and peas. And that's a little can. Like I said, it's only an 8-ounce can. And like I was saying, these cans are about the size of the red plastic cups. Take the outside of them off. Take your label off. And then put you a couple of holes in the bottom. And you can use it to start seedlings in. Because it gives them enough room to grow roots. It's not like having them in the little bitty pots where you got to transfer them to a big pot this size and then transplant them to your garden. You can grow them in this and not have to transplant them again until you get ready to put them in your garden, because they have plenty of room to put down roots. And that's probably what I'm going to do with these cans. I mean, I've got plenty of plastic pots out there, but hey, if you got cans, why not use them? Keep them out of the landfill. Use them as your planting pots. Some of them you can actually, well, like this one maybe. I'll show you. Put that down there because it does have some juice in it. But I'm going to show you here what I'm doing. I turn the can upside down. Now you can't do this with all of them, but I think this one I can because of the way the lip is at the bottom. If you've got an old-timey bottle opener, can opener, there you go. And sometimes if you can't do it on the very bottom, that gives you enough drainage right there. That's all you need for that can. Just be careful that you don't, some of these cans have sharp edges around the inside, and I don't want you to get cut. So be careful with that. Like this one, it has a sharp edge inside there. And this one, I'm not sure I can open from the bottom. No, I can't. But you know what? I think you can turn it the opposite way and you can open it from the side. I did another one that way. I couldn't open it from the bottom. So see, I opened it on the side. I put drain holes on the side of it. And just take your paper off. And just be careful, don't cut your fingers on the inside of that. That gives you another. Gives you options. And if you wanted to, you could even use the smaller one, I guess. I've not tried using the smaller one for a little pot. But cups are that small that I've used. I mean, you'd have to transplant them again, but you can just open the bottom of it up. Just like that. And if you have one that you can't open with a can opener like that, just go get you I'm trying to think. I've got an old-timey can opener. If I can find it. Some of you may even have one like this. Now sometimes you can use that point there to pop down in it and open it, or this one here. Or sometimes that right there. So, and if not, like I said, you can use a drill. You can use, if you don't have a drill and you've got a hammer and you've got a nail, a big nail, just turn the can upside down and make some holes in it with the nail. Hammer you some holes in it. Isn't that looking good? It smells good. You've got to let that cook a little. Oh, that smells so good. And this is something else I like to do. I mean, you do not have to do this. It's totally up to you, but I like to use the chicken and the beef bouillon. I'm going to take 1 cube and I'm going to put it in my soup. Because one of these little things goes a long way. I like to flavor up my soup. Sometimes I'll even put chicken bouillon in there. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper. Because I like pepper. And I know some doctors tell you don't eat black pepper, but if you know how to adjust your spine, that it'll open your bowels up. That black pepper passes right through your colon. It don't get stuck. Because usually it will get stuck. Stuff like that will, because your system does not digest black pepper. It will the red pepper, but not the black. But if you know how to adjust your spine, and I do, because I was injured years ago back in 1983, had surgeries a year later on my neck and my lower back, and I had to go to a chiropractor all the time. I mean, I went like every day for 3 months, and then I went like 2 or 3 times a week for several months. Then I went once a week for several months, and then finally I was down to once a month. And then finally he told me to, well, you know enough to adjust your own spine now. And he said, just come in if you need to. So I know enough that I can adjust my spine, that I can empty my colon out and not have to worry about pepper getting stuck or stuck in there. That's usually the first thing they show you when they start adjusting your spine, is they'll show you how pepper gets stuck up in your colon and it doesn't pass through. Excuse me, because your system doesn't digest the black pepper. So now we're going to cook this just long enough for the potatoes and the celery to get cooked, because everything else by now is already cooked. Your peas and carrots are cooked. Your meat is cooked. Your onions are cooked. You just basically need to cook your potatoes and your celery. I guarantee you, if you tell your kids you're going to have hamburger soup for supper, they will love it. Because in their mind, they're going to be thinking hamburger. And it's going to taste kind of like hamburger. Especially if you brown that beef before you put the rest of the stuff in there. You get that burger flavor in the soup. And it's really good. I got awfully thirsty today. Yeah, but don't that look good? It's looking good, y'all. And it won't take too long for the potatoes and that celery to be cooked because we cut them in kind of small pieces. And you know, usually potatoes don't take a real long time, maybe 10-15 minutes at the most. So I got a piece of my dried basil stuck to the spoon. I can't wait to eat a bowl of this. Because like I said, this is going to be my dinner tonight. I'm going to eat a bowl of hamburger soup and maybe a cracker or two. I may not even eat the crackers because I love the soup. I can just eat it by itself. And you notice I'm in the house, so I'm not breathing heavy. If I was outside in the yard breathing that air out there, I'd be breathing heavy because my breathing would start getting a little bit labored because, like I said, my allergies affect my breathing. Some things I'm so allergic to, I'll actually not be able to breathe. Like x-ray dye. They cannot use x-ray dye on me. I found that out the hard way. I went in thinking my back was giving me a problem, and they said they thought it was kidney stones, and they took an x-ray, and they couldn't get a clear shot with the x-ray, so they injected that x-ray dye into my veins. And the minute that stuff hit my system, I immediately could not breathe. It was like a giant elephant just sat on my chest. I could not inhale. I couldn't exhale. All I could do is wave my hands and try my best to get the nurse's attention. And when she looked at me and said, "What's the matter?" I could barely say, "Can't breathe." I mean, I could barely get that out because when you can't inhale or exhale, you can't talk either. But she realized what I was trying to tell her, and she immediately ran out the door in the hallway just in time to grab one of the doctors that was going through. And he said, "She's in anaphylactic shock. She can't breathe." He said, "Well," and I don't remember how many cc's he said, but he said, "Give her X amount of cc's of Benadryl stat." I do know that means immediately. So she ran, grabbed the Benadryl, came back in there, and stuck it or put it in that IV so it would immediately go in my veins. And the minute that hit my veins, I was able to take a good deep breath. That was so scary. I had never been in that situation before. After that, they gave me an EpiPen, but then later when I switched doctors, he told me not to ever use the EpiPen. Because he says, "I don't think you'll be in contact with anything where you'll actually stop breathing like that unless it's injected into your body. Injected directly into your system, your blood veins and stuff." He said, "Just breathing," he said, "you may get labored breathing or difficulty in breathing, but he said you will be able to breathe." So, and some things, like the coconut oil that was the base of this medicine cream that I was using at one time, it took 3 days to rub that on my skin for it to build up enough in my system that it make me broke out in hives. So some things it takes 3 days to really take effect. Like when I first came to Texas, I was fine. No problem. After about 3 or 4 days being here, I started getting sick. And I thought I caught a virus because my chest was getting irritated, my sinuses were stopped up, and I thought I had a chest virus because I was always getting bronchitis back home. But it usually was like in the spring of the year or the fall of the year, maybe once a year. And I kept taking stuff off the counter for colds and flu and you name it. Nothing was doing any good. So finally I went to a doctor over in Cleburne because a friend of mine said they had some real good doctors over there that they went to them. So I went over there. And they were all Indian doctors, from like India. They couldn't speak very good English. Some of them no English at all. And I tried my best to tell him what the problem was. He left the room, ran a bunch of tests, took an x-ray, done a bunch of stuff, come back in there later, and he shook his head and kind of grinned. He said, "Not sick." I said, "What do you mean not sick?" "All allergies," he said. "All allergies." So they gave me a shot to clear up the allergies. And I was fine. I was fine for about a year, and then my allergies started kicking in and bothering me again. So after that, they would give me a shot when my allergies got real bad. Well, I don't know if it was, I think it was a combination of a virus and allergies, because when I went home in December when my sister-in-law passed away, when I came, I was already feeling bad when I got there. And when I got back home, I was sick. I ended up sick in the bed for 2 weeks. I mean, so sick in the beginning, it scared me to even think about driving the car to go to the doctor. So I said, I'm going to tough it out. I've been sicker than this, so. And then I finally started getting better. I had some Robitussin and stuff like that here already. So I started taking that. But it finally passed and I was fine, so. And like I said, I don't know if it was all allergies or if I caught a virus on the way. Potato's not quite done. So we'll cook it a little bit longer. And you can get crushed tomatoes. Mine are diced tomatoes. So they're in hunks, they're kind of big pieces. But I don't mind that. You can get pureed tomatoes. You can get crushed tomatoes. And if you don't like them in the big pieces like this, you can throw them in your blender and just chop them all up and make them in as small pieces as you want. I just dump mine in because I like tomatoes. It doesn't bother me to eat a big hunk of a tomato. And if I'd leave this pot alone and let it cook, those potatoes might cook, hadn't they? I'll have hamburger soup for a few days. I may even freeze a container of it so I don't eat all of it right now. Because I was going to cook some salmon patties one day. But my hamburger soup, it won out this time. I got to taste some of this broth. That tastes good. And I shouldn't do this, but it just needs a little bit more salt. I didn't put much. Just a little bit. I ate something today that made me thirsty. Well, are you having fun yet? Are you about to fix you a pot of hamburger soup? You'll be surprised how much it tastes too like just beef soup, vegetable beef soup. Try a potato and see how done it is. And try a piece of the celery. Oh yeah, that's good. Wash up some of my bowls so I can get me a bowl of it. And I'm just rinsing out these cans because I do have them in the house and I don't want them to smell soured or anything, so I take them out. Yeah, what better way to use cans that you buy vegetables and stuff in than to start your seeds in. I'm sure glad that wind stopped blowing, because it blew my water heater out twice yesterday. And I didn't know it the second time, though. I absolutely had no hot water. I mean, I ran that hot water and I ran it and no hot water came out. I mean, sometimes, you know, the wind can blow and it just depends on the direction the wind blows and the draft that gets under the house, whether it blows it out or not. Okay, I'm going to cut that down a little. I wanted you to be able to see this, and I don't know if you can. Well, I don't like that angle either. Maybe this angle. I mean, look at that. That is good right there. Look at that. All that meat and vegetables. Can you see that? Don't that look good, y'all? Put this stuff with this camera. I've been charging phones and everything else over here. Maybe if I move it back a little ways and up a little bit. But, yeah. But it's hot, y'all. This is some hot stuff right here. And my hair, I don't know. Say a little prayer. Always have to remember to thank the good Lord above for what He gives us. That is winning right there. So if you want something a little bit different than just regular old vegetable beef soup, this is so much better than canned vegetable beef soup, I have to tell you. If you ever fix what I call hamburger soup, you will never eat another can of vegetable beef soup again, because you will fix it yourself. It's so easy and it's so good. Why not? Your kids will thank you for it. That is so good. Here, y'all have some. I'll have a bite. Open big. But yeah, try it. And like I said, if you don't like garlic, don't put garlic in there. If you don't like onions, don't put onions in there. I like all of it. That's the reason I love growing a garden, because there's nothing I don't think you could grow in the garden that I don't love, really. I was going to say like and love at the same time, and it came out kind of weird, didn't it? That is so good. Now I know why the soup won out for supper or dinner tonight. Because that's good. I haven't had a bowl of this soup in quite a while. It's probably been 6 months since I fixed any. And I don't know why. Because I love it. just be careful. Don't do what I just did. And put a really scalding hot mouthful in your mouth. You can't help it, though. It's so good you just want to eat it right now. You don't want to wait for it to cool off. Mmm. That is so good I could eat the whole pot full. But I couldn't hold it. But for the taste of this, take my word for it. If you got kids at home, they'll love this. Fix them a pot of hamburger soup. Normally, I would fix either biscuit or cornbread or eat some crackers with it. In fact, I've got crackers. Got some right here. But I'll tell you what, the soup is so good I don't even want to eat the crackers. Yep. With just the amount of ingredients that I put in here, you basically get a little bit of everything in every spoonful when you go to eat it. You get a little bit of the meat, you get the potatoes, you get the corn, you get the peas and carrots, you get the tomatoes. It's just really good, y'all. Well, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me eat this whole bowl of soup. But I just want to tell you, fix you a pot of this hamburger soup. You will love it. Your kids will love it. Anybody that eats it will love it. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos. Subscriptions are free. Like I said, you just need a Google account. Google accounts are free. If you got Gmail, you've already got a Google account. So all you got to do is sign into your account and subscribe to my channel. It is absolutely free. And with that, I am going to wish you a good day or good night. Y'all have a great evening, and I will see you on my next video.